We're about to get started here on the Comicasters live stream. Hopefully everybody can hear this and is in the house to listen. We're hoping to archive it, so cross our fingers for that. I'm MC Brown here, flanked by Dan Quiroga to my left, and Colt Hudson, who is dropping a deuce somewhere. Hopefully we'll be back here in a second. There he is, he's coming in. So we'll be starting shortly. Hang with us, and hopefully you guys enjoy the show. I just told our live stream listeners, if they're ready, that you were dropping a deuce.
Oh, is that what he said?
If anybody listens.
Want to start with the music?
Yes.
All right.
Let's do it. Acoustics is not great.
Yeah, I know.
About 45 seconds still.
Can I just talk over it?
I thought we were going to just use it as the intro.
Yeah, but I don't know, Ken.
Well,
I hope they can hear it better than us.
Well, I'm stopping it.
Oh, okay.
5 seconds.
All right.
It's just the intro to get them pumped.
All right.
It'll be better with the Batman.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't think we're going to talk about too much villainy in this one. Maybe Magneto.
There's a few.
Touch on.
Yeah, it's dark, the stories.
No orchestra bell in this one. I hate it.
Guys ready to talk about X-Men 25th anniversary? Okay, just to let you know, give a setup here for a shirt I'm wearing. My name is MC Brown. I'm with the Comicasters, and it's live audio casting on YouTube channel, which is hopefully you guys will subscribe to. There's a lot of good previous panels that were up there. It's having the crapshoot of if it'll archive. Hopefully at least they're getting it live. If archives, you'll get to listen to it again. We'll make no promises, but we're in a transition stage. So I do have a shirt to give away at the end of the panel from A Different Cloth. I want to thank them. They are our distributor for the Comicaster shirts. Unfortunately, I'd give them all away earlier in the weekend, but we'll be giving these away in the next 3 panels as well. So I want to thank Brandon with A Different Cloth for donating the shirts to raffle off. So we'll have a prize at the end. So we're going to get started. I'm going to let my 2 esteemed co-hosts introduce themselves, and then we'll get started.
Yes, my name is Dan Quiroga. I'm a former online journalist with Comic Book Therapy. We've covered, through them, I've covered various different topics throughout the geek entertainment world. Walking Dead, Supernatural, DC, Marvel, Star Wars, anything pretty much in that vein of science fiction, fantasy, and horror. And I'm just glad here to be here with these 2 esteemed colleagues to give you the buzz on the X-Men.
All right, thanks, Dan. Hi, I'm Colt. I work as a therapist, but I've done a lot of research in the social sciences and looking at psychopathology behind supervillains and what makes good supervillains and what makes a good hero and how we kind of write a good story. So we might touch on that a little bit in this panel, but probably a lot more in the next one if you're going to join us, which will be Batman for the animated series. So we might touch on a little bit of that in here.
Okay, big fans of the show, I take it, you guys? You've seen all 5 seasons? Yeah. All right, cool.
25 years.
25 years, long time, and it's still and there's been some X-Men cartoons since, obviously not quite what we were expecting, but I think with this show, too, arguably one of the most comic-friendly series that we've ever gotten. It's took a lot of some of the adult elements that you wouldn't even think would occur, did, and you had the Apocalypse story, Dark Phoenix, you had Mr. Sinister's presence felt, Magneto, with the Asteroid M storyline. It's just they covered so many huge X-Men. Yes, you name it, they covered it, and what the cool thing was is that they didn't pull any punches, Colt. They went after all the dark themes, adult themes, and the great thing about it as a comic fan, I mean, it was very bright, like even maybe brighter than some of the X-Men comics that are today. But
lots of yellow.
Yeah, but inexpensive to make because comparative to our next panel, this series costs a lot of money to make per episode in time compared to a dark paneled, the animation cells of Batman animated series. So definitely want to give props to Margaret Loesch, because I think the mother of the series, if she didn't push so hard for this to get this series to be made on Fox Kids, this would not have made it. If you do any type of research, she pushed hard for this series. She believed in the X-Men and believed in the strong female characters and the cast that we got with them. And it's more, I think, than the Fox Kids is kind of like a little bit of a smokescreen when you look at that. It was for the late teen and adults. I mean, we can all still enjoy and appreciate it now. I think that says a lot.
Certainly. Some of the themes that they've addressed, as you guys know, they address divorce, the Holocaust, Christianity, AIDS, infidelity, right? So for a children's TV show, this is getting pretty deep, right, for Fox Kids on a Saturday morning. Right? This is not something you think, oh, these are just kind of little fairy tale
And
stories.
death.
Yeah.
And death, of course.
Yeah.
Or even loss, right, with Scott grieving the loss of Jean, and yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah. So I mean, like, from that and using that, there's so many great moments. I mean, we this whole weekend, anybody that's been to any of our panels, we're very fan interactive. We want to get your feedback. What favorite episode, favorite moment from the series? Just toss it out to you guys. What are some of your favorite moments from the series?
One of my favorite things was, speaking on adult themes, just the name of the episode for Weapon X, Lies and Videotape.
Yeah.
Clever,
Yes. Yeah. You notice that from a lot of the titles of the episodes are great like that. Yeah.
Not too far, the years past is not too far from when that movie came out.
Anybody else? You have favorite moment, something you remember, just the theme from the series? Go ahead.
Thieves Guild,
Yeah.
the whole Gambit kind of arc.
Yeah. 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 I mean, exploring that aspect of Gambit's, past and stuff, which I don't know at the time if that was really even delved in too much in the comics, and yeah, they made a great episode about it. In the back, go ahead.
The characters actually grew, and they evolved slowly, and they changed.
What was that now?
The characters actually changed.
Yes, exactly. Like Colt had mentioned, they had to deal with loss. They had to deal with, no pun intended, evolving themselves from emotionally, not just their power standpoint. Yeah, it was a very adult series. The themes were there.
The Legacy 5 was 7 episodes.
Yeah. Great stuff. Yeah. Anybody else? Go ahead.
My favorite episode was the one where they did Rogue's backstory, which included Mystique and kind of humanized Mystique.
Yes.
The one with Miss Marvel where she was showing guilt
Yeah.
for taking everything from her,
Yeah.
from Carol
Yes.
Danvers. Yeah.
That was
That was a
definitely
very good one.
powerful episode for sure. Go ahead.
Another thing I really liked was whenever Cable and Bishop were
Yes.
involved. I think
Yeah.
the time travel storylines that they went about were pretty advanced for a cartoon.
Yeah. I love Days of Future Past. That was, a Bishop being one of my favorite X-Men. Yeah, it was just cool to see in there. Go ahead, Orange.
I like when it Friends of Humanity, and especially Creighton or Grayson Creighton.
Yeah.
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 That's his self-hatred for his mutant lineage and just taking it out on everyone else.
There was so many great ones out there for sure that we could probably keep listening to them too.
Sure.
Who's your favorite X-Men? Gambit. Yeah. Rogue. To vote. Wolverine. Yeah. The voices were very distinct and very powerful in this series. That's the thing, and they actually, one of the part of the history of this is that the original voice actors they had for the series, they all got fired. And they were replaced with theatrical actors, and that's why I think these voices, when you're looking at the cast, and is just an impressive list of classically trained actors and their voices, and they're iconic to this day. We were, you cannot forget. Yeah, you cannot forget these voices.
Yeah, there was some debate if Jubilee's voice was really that annoying. What did you guys think about that?
No, she was much worse from Big Comfy Couch.
Okay, yeah.
There is Jubilee.
I always thought,
Jubilee is back there, just to let you know.
oh, is she in the,
Yeah.
oh, she's in the building. Hello,
Yeah.
Jubilee, welcome. We think your voice is great. No fireworks, please.
Don't throw any fireworks at us.
That's right. I always thought Storm's voice was more annoying than Jubilee's.
Yeah, I mean, she
Rogue,
did. She
and she'd
screamed
get
a
all
lot.
crazy and yell
Yeah,
and
That whole Southern Belle with Rogue.
She was
yeah.
always eccentric, but she was always cool-headed in the comics, I felt. So
Yeah.
She always was a leader role type,
Mhm.
and they just kind of made her a little wild in that series.
I would agree. Yeah, I thought she was way more annoying than Jubilee.
They took the team out and obviously used predominantly the X-Men Blue from the time when Jim Lee was working on the series, and it split up, and then they of course switched out a couple. They switched out one of my favorite X-Men, Psylocke, for of course Jean and Storm, which is understandable. But you know, when they did keep the young newcomer, we got a Apocalypse back there now.
Uh-oh.
They did keep the newcomers, Jubilee and Gambit. Very nice costume.
Jubilee will take care of Apocalypse.
Yeah. Hopefully Jubilee will
She's
protect
got
us.
this.
But it was nice to see the fresh blood in Gambit and Jubilee in there, and they took both the new characters that were pretty popular in the series at the time, mixing them with the classic, beefed up lineup. But it's predominantly X-Men Blue. But my point in this is that was there a character you wanted to see in the core team that maybe didn't get quite their due that you'd see, or maybe one from more present day that you would love to see if they were ever to kind of bring this series back? Or I know they brought the comic back, but like if you were to put a character in this universe, so to speak, is there somebody you would love to see? Go ahead, Emma.
Maggie.
Yeah, it's a good one, Maggot. Right there, Colossus. Yeah, I think he was.
I think Nightcrawler too.
Nightcrawler.
He had a great episode. And yeah, it's I think a lot of them you just. They were concentrating on that blue team lineup. Go ahead.
They dealt with Archangel's wings after they were ripped off, but it would have been nice to see, like, when he was just Angel.
Yeah.
When they metallicized him and made him one of the horsemen.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a really good episode.
Yeah. It's good.
But I think one of the things that actually was impressive that actually came out to the forefront with so many people have this thing about with Cyclops being a whiner and being temperamental and uneasy. I saw him really come to gel during the Savage Island arc because that arc brought out the worst in Mr. Sinister. He was doing he was just asking to be torn a new one, and it was Cyclops that went to bat and really did him in at the end, and I thought that was really phenomenal series. Made it really epic.
Yeah.
The themes for me really struck a chord, like when we were talking about how the series looked colorful on the outside, but was like the core, the darkness of the core of the series was there, and and mutant discrimination heavily in the series, and it dealt with so many adult themes like that. But you had even ones in the team, like when you're looking at the forbidden love aspect of Rogue and Gambit, that here's a character in Rogue that cannot even touch the one she loves, the intimacy can't be done, and having that in a cartoon and having the theme be there, those things just resonate with me, and I think that keeps the series timeless.
Yeah, certainly.
Anything else for you guys? Something that you remember from the series that you wanted to share? Something that did it strike a chord? Stuff, the particular episodes or moments in the series strike a chord with you that you still. Which one?
The family aspect.
Yeah.
Between him and his brother, that bitter hate that comes out between them, and him not remembering who he was.
You're talking about the Summers brothers? Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, the very first episode where Morph gets, killed.
Yeah.
From that this isn't your, A-team, everything's gonna be okay kind of thing.
Yeah.
I think there's gonna be consequences to actually.
They had to fight for that. They once they had gotten that approved, they still had to promise to bring Morph back, even though they killed him off there. And they also had an edict from Marvel to not use Beast, so they had to actually find a way to take Beast off that table there, and that's where they put him in prison. They still kind of had him as there, but not in the forefront, because Marvel had requested that.
I think one of the most special episodes to me, and this is just because of the women that I've ended up dating, much different than me, is the Collie episode, when Beast is looking on Collie's eyes, and then Collie's like, I'm loving you because it's not about you being a hairy beast, it's I'm looking beyond it. You're Hank McCoy. You're this great doctor, smart guy, and a beautiful person beyond the rough, bluey, furry, feline exterior.
Yeah.
I'm just curious how that relates to your dating life.
Mainly that I don't, that I haven't had as much success with Caucasians. That is more, I have, like, my two longest relationships have been African American and now Native American.
Okay.
It's not the blue fur that you dyed dark.
I need women with blue fur beyond conflict.
We can do therapy after the session if you'd like.
He's got business cards. He's got business cards. So at the with the series and everything that's, you know, to you, Dan, what stood out to you, like, when you're looking at the series, and what's memorable to you? What, you know, stands out to you from the test of time from the series?
Well, it's various things. I mean, of course, Wolverine, he's got this strong, cocky, untrusting, pretty much the same attitude that was delivered early in the Batman animated series with Batman, except he interjects it with the obviously era's past term to people, bub, you know. You know, and I always thought that was funny that he would address every, you know, dude that he comes around as bub. It was like, you know, trying to bring the series back about 60 years. And I always thought that was it. And then he was, you know, he was a badass, and I liked that. And I mean, each character had their own, but what I think what also stood out to me was, I always, and it was something that even Stan Lee addressed, that when he had Professor X perfected his, you know, his look, character look, it was all modeled after Yul Brynner.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like, yeah, that's Yul Brynner.
Do you have a comment back there? Go ahead.
Yes, we're talking about our favorite episodes. What
Yeah.
about the worst episode, the X-Men Christmas special? So bad.
That's actually my favorite one.
That's season 5. Is that really even canon?
I just watched the Phalanx episode again, you know, the
Oh,
other
okay,
day.
besides that.
So
Yeah.
it's done by the same
Yeah, I
people
like
that did the
that
Star Wars one.
Yeah. I mean, if that's what you guys want to discuss, is there something that you did not like from
Why
the
didn't you
series?
ask me my favorite episode?
Oh, we'll get back to you.
Okay.
Go ahead. Why don't you go ahead?
No, please, by all means.
We'll go to the
Sounds
next.
good.
I didn't do mine either. Yeah, Colt, let us know.
Well, does it not set the stage for Professor X and Magneto, like in episode 3 in season 1, right? I think that's pretty good. And by the time we get to episode 4, it sets up that whole story between the two of them. And as we're going to talk about more in the next panel, is what makes a good TV show or story or comic book is that you have to have a good protagonist and you have to have a good antagonist, right? Because oftentimes, if there's not a good villain, we don't have a very good movie or comic or anything, right? And we touched on this at one of our panels the other night, was The Dark Knight. Not a great movie if you remove the Joker, right? But because you have a great villain, makes for a good movie. Likewise with Magneto. He is one of the best villains Marvel has. He has a rich history, so therefore we can do a lot with that. But if we just have Professor X is kind of boring. He's noble, and we get that, and he's a good guy, and he likes to take care of kids, and great. But you just have a character like that, it's not very exciting. But if we have a really good villain, that makes for a good plot. And they did that early on to set that precedent. And that makes really a good series.
I think with X-Men, it's an excellent point. X-Men does a better job with the fallen, you know, friends aspect, and they tried to do, I think, early on in the Superman Lex Luthor, and they just kind of got, you know, that kind of fall by the wayside. But the one recurring thing in Marvel and X-Men is they don't shy away from, these were close friends. They, you know, and they did a great job in First Class as well, that these were guys on the same page at one point in time until they hit that fork in the road, and ideology changed for both, you know, for Magneto, that says these humans will never respect us. They will never,
Because
you know,
also
treat us, you know, as we should.
Yeah, because also that Eric is a tortured soul from the Holocaust.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's got a chip on it, a large chip on his shoulder, and rightfully so. And he just goes about things the wrong way. And in his mind, it's the right way. And as Colt said, a good villain is going to. We talked about it almost every panel we've had. A great villain is going to make a mediocre story even better. If it's well written, it's going to elevate everything. And the thing with Magneto and the theme with any X-Men universe is Magneto's always there. It's because he's at opposite ends ideology with Professor X. Professor X wants humans and mutants to live together. Magneto wants to rule them because they will never respect them, and discrimination is there.
Yeah, and that's the great paradox with Magneto is he hates what happened in the Holocaust, yet he's doing the same thing on the reversed end, right?
Yeah.
He's trying to exterminate the other side, even though he hates what happened to him. So it's kind of interesting to see that character and how that kind of portrays itself throughout the series.
Yeah.
I think we had a question.
There are a couple people. Go here, and then we'll move back.
But it's just not the one you wonder with the villains that keeps like
Yes.
through with Apocalypse, Mr. Sinister, and Dark Phoenix. It's just not the one big bad. There's a lot of them.
Yeah, and the cool thing is, it's like a big knock on some of the Marvel movies is they keep just offing their villains and stuff. With this series, yeah, they revisit them and they use them how we want to see them. They're using the comic history and lore, and they're telling the stories, the important stories that straight from the source material, and doing it right with respect. You got?
I was gonna go back to the Magneto and Charles Xavier thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
What was interesting about their relationship is, even though they disagree ideology-wise,
Yeah.
that they still like each other, like they're still friends. Like he still, at least for me, I didn't think he hated Charles as a person.
Yeah.
He still enjoyed Charles.
Well,
He still sees him as a brother.
yeah.
Yeah.
And how many brothers fight? How many brothers fight, even though they and it could be a case made that they love each other as friends and brothers, but they just cannot see eye to eye. And if you've ever had a sibling that you got into a quarrel with, even short-term, long-term, they don't see eye to eye, and it's hard to get back to a common place. But they do revisit these things in X-Men myth. How many times do you see Magneto have to work together? Even as I was telling this gentleman with the Phalanx story, wasn't necessarily with Charles, but they came, Beast came to Magneto for help. Even Sinister working with him. Mutants still kind of, they band together in the end because it's still their own kind. At the end of the day, you see Magneto a lot of times come full circle back. It's just that he always has something, and it's your past. And then for Magneto, it's his tortured past, as both Colt and Dan said, that brings him back doing things that arguably he hated, but his past has messed him up.
Which I think makes him a cool villain.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
He believes he's right.
Right.
That's like in any storyline in the villain. If the villain believes he's in the right, he's going to do whatever means necessary. He believes he's the hero, and Charles is going about it the wrong way.
Right.
All the way in the back with that.
You're focusing so much on Charles and Magneto, but for the animated series, they did that with most of their villains. They had a lot of central figures. They brought out Charles Xavier and Juggernaut's relationship, Sabretooth and Wolverine, and there were a lot of
themes,
those where they covered the core aspects of their storyline.
I think they did a pretty good job with a lot of the characters. I mean, I know near the end even they gave Jubilee an episode, and it's just they did a lot of, they spread it out pretty good with a lot of the characters, which was good to see. Next to right there, do you have a question?
No, I just said, you see a lot of respect in the series.
Yeah.
Like, I don't agree with you and what you're doing, but I respect your ideas.
Yeah.
But we're just gonna fight for a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
I want to touch upon that too. Like even in the MCU, like still Eric and Charles still respect each other.
Yeah.
Even though they still disagree. I mean, like Charles never killed Eric and Eric never killed Charles.
Yeah.
Because they really respect each other. Like you said, they still have that brotherly love.
Yeah.
So I really think that it was really well conducted.
Yeah, I mean, just as the gentleman in the back said, not just with Professor X and Magneto, the relationships between all the characters in X-Men and an animated series is a benchmark for so many other series too. You look at it and say, well, I know they did Evolution and that was very more kid friendly and stuff too. We always come back to X-Men the animated series and say, why can't this series be like X-Men the animated series? It's an iconic series.
It does come to that point.
Yeah.
It's always been all around. Charles and Eric will always be like brothers. I mean, I hate to reference Last Stand, but you notice that one point where Jean Grey was about to kill Xavier, and like Magneto was going, Charles. So there was still that bond there at the very end. So.
Yeah. All the way back.
One of the things that was really neat was with the way they
But I liked that he did develop as a character and learned to actually tolerate and respect his teammates, like Wolverine, just from the Alpha Flight backstory.
Yeah. I like that they didn't shy away from the conflict between the team itself. Like for me, I love Days of Future Past because Bishop and and other stuff. The themes for me is that tension between Wolverine and Cyclops always there. I mean, it's a very and it's basically over Jean Grey. It's like, at the end of the day, it's over. I mean, how many times has you seen that play out? But it's there, and they don't shy away from it for and you see this aggression with Wolverine and Cyclops straight out of the comics. It's no secret. But to see it play out, I like it. I mean, for a lot of the characters, I love to, why we're watching. Why do we watch dramas and stuff? It's for the conflict, the stuff that's in there. It's like throwing a dynamite stick in there when you have a character who could fly off the handle like Wolverine or Guy Gardner in the Justice League stuff. Characters like that are fun to watch and see them. They're kind of, they stirred a pot, to put it on a milder, some blank stir,
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So go ahead.
If they were to reboot the series or even create another animated series, what story arcs would you guys like to see them flesh out?
I would love to see. If this would be done, I would love to see it. I think the scene, even if it's melded into a thing, is where Magneto rips the adamantium from Wolverine. How visually in a cartoon to do that. I would love to see that. That scene in particular, I would love to see.
That'd be like that X-Men mic drop right there.
Yeah, exactly. That for me, I would love to see. I think just more. More of my favorite characters get maybe a little bit more screen time. I love Havoc, I love Bishop and Psylocke. They're not always in the forefront, but if I was to form a mini X-Force or whatever, I would put them maybe with Wolverine, and I would love to see them in there. So it's hard. I would take parts of that Psylocke's origin with Quanon. Putting those in there. Just stuff like that for, any time travel stories like you were saying earlier. I love those because X-Men does it a lot, but a lot of times that could be corny and cheesy if you think you're doing it, but X-Men actually makes it heavy-handed. You have this apocalyptic future with the Sentinels. You have so many things going on, the stuff with Hope and stuff. They could adapt that. I don't like the aspect of Bishop as a villain. Yeah, that to me, it never really resonated, but, using... he himself too believed he was in the right. The baby is the cause of this future. I have to stop it. So even using his motives were there, but he was trying to save mutant kind. He was trying to save the world, and just put him at odds with the X-Men because he's trying to kill a baby. Dan, for you, what would you like to see?
I would like to see seeing how far they could actually take the war between each other. The factions. There was a good formula for The Last Stand, but its execution was horrible. If they could sort of refine that and put that in the animated universe, I think that would be a lot more epic. And then doing Dark Phoenix right, of course.
Yeah. What about you, Colt?
There was a really good comic series, Gambit on Trial. Did anybody read that way back when? Just me.
I recommend it.
Yes, I think it's worth your read, but it just does a really good job of giving that background to Gambit and what he's like, and is he the bad guy, is he a good guy, can we trust him? That'd be kind of neat if they ever did go down that road to see that maybe in an animated series.
Yeah, I think they teased that I believe that he was, hey, can we trust him and stuff, and and that's, it gives a lot of tension to the characters. It would be great to see, that kind of that mystery.
I'd like to see when Magneto lost his memories.
Joseph, right? Yeah. It would be interesting because it puts him on the team, and the dynamic there. Yeah, I agree. That would be great stuff. What about you guys to turn it back around on you? Go ahead. Onslaught. Yeah, that would be pretty powerful to the reveal. Kind of break the teams, the heart of the team up for sure. Did you have a question? No. Go ahead.
I'd like to see from the comic series where they brought Sabretooth in.
Yeah.
They were trying to take him and like mentally recondition and help him out. So
Yeah.
this Wolverine's sick and his sabbatical after losing that adamantium.
Yeah.
So I'd love to see how they would do that in the animated series.
There's a lot of tension there too, you know, with Rogue especially and stuff too, and they just, you know, the trust factor and everything too, yeah. I mean, X-Men has done a lot of that good internal team conflict very well, because it just keeps everybody on the edge. Nobody's too comfortable, but they have to work together somehow. But the personalities, just like in real life. I mean, we all have to go to work. I hope in this room probably everybody works, and you got to go. Sometimes you got to work with people you don't like. Sometimes you have the same end goal, but you have to get along with, you know, and reach the same goal with people that you're not going for drinks afterwards, you're not hanging out afterwards, but you still have the same mission at the end of the day, and that's the X-Men too. And they're mutants. They share that in common, but at the same time, they may not like each other, you know, and that's a theme throughout the series and comics and cartoons, movies. It's what's intriguing. It's what the great part about the X universe. Yeah.
Was there a reason the writers chose that Storm lose her ability to have internal monologue when she used her powers?
We need to get one of those guys up here and ask them. Least favorite character on the team, what would it be for you guys? Cyclops, you know, is that the, yeah?
Or Morph.
Morph, yeah, well, Morph, yeah. Morph didn't last too long.
But he eventually betrayed the team Leech.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
cool when he betrayed everybody, because
Yeah.
it was a cool, like,
Yeah.
Leech?
comeback, but.
Morph. Right.
Oh, Morph, okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm thinking Leech. Leech was.
Yeah, where'd you get Leech?
Huh?
Leech on the mind?
Yeah.
Go ahead, back there.
When we were talking about before, what we would like to see as far as storyline.
Yeah.
I know at the end of Wolverine, the X-Men, you know, wasn't as close to the series as we were into Age of Apocalypse, but I would love to see Age of Apocalypse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, an updated series, I mean,
Yeah.
if I was to see it, I mean, it ties into this question there, I would like to see that, and I know they've had some of those standalone animated anime, and I enjoyed those a lot, because the colors are the colors are very dark, the theme, you know, the animation is very dark. I would love to see this series with a darker palette, and just because I mean, it's a lot of stuff they're doing will match with the theme of what's going on, and I think it'll just set the tone maybe to match a little bit better with the storylines. I mean,
He's tired of the discount on yellow.
yeah, I mean, you really, you know, yeah, I think if you were to update it now, yeah, I think that would be maybe one of the few flaws on the series, is maybe just looked a little too bright for what it was. But I think it almost seems like they're trying to trick Fox Studios and, hey, it is great friendly X-Men series, and then you watch a series and it's like, it's just, what the heck is going on in there? Yeah. So they did a good job. It lasted for 5 seasons.
Do you feel like now that censors are not as uptight as they was back, you know, when the original series was on, now you could probably get away with more? Like Wolverine never cut anything that wasn't a robot, really.
Yeah. If you really look at some of the stuff, I mean, and they do that, they talk about in Justice League, they never punch anybody in the Super Friends. Nobody technically gets punched, so it's like, you know, they get around it, but I
They
think.
kind of stomped them.
Yeah.
When they grew in size.
Yeah, but that's about it, you know, it's like, I think the cool thing is we have Young Justice on the DC end going to Netflix. Why couldn't we have an X-Men animated on Netflix? They have the Defenders on there. You know, it would be like a prime opportunity to use Disney Netflix relationship and give us, you know, I mean, we get a lot of Avengers, but what about the love for the X-Men? What about bringing a series like this back, or a similar tone back, and putting it on Netflix? And how adult can we do? I mean, you know, so many stories delve into dark places in the X universe that they could do so many great stories and do it right and justice to it.
Once they get the rights back from Fox.
Yeah, if they could get, I mean, if they animated wise, they could do it. I think that rights is not tied to I think animated wise, they could do it. I mean, that's the one thing, thankfully, it's not, I think, tied up with that.
Just maybe exploring the Warlock world more, because you know, the X-Men are kind of the beautiful mutants, but getting down to that, those, you know, rejected by society, even on the outside, and having to form their own society and survive. That goes, I mean, that's just start to begin with, and it would be a completely different palette. You know,
Yeah, that's, you know, it's a lot of times you're looking at the pretty mutants, you know, so it's like the celebrity mutants. Yeah, the mutants, you know, Jean is not so nice to some of the other characters, and yeah, the underbelly and, you know, of what they have to deal with in the Morlocks and every stuff too is, yeah, I think it's untapped. I mean, you look at some of the series that they've done live action wise too. And that I think, not sure what the rights are tied up like with that, but you know, yeah, they've delved into, you know, mutant kind. I mean, it's been maligned and stuff, but I enjoyed what I seen of Mutant X when it was on. I mean, it was a different take and different characters, but I think you could do, you know, a lot of cool stuff with any of the mutants and any of the, if they could get, you know, live action on there too. I mean, it's so expansive. There's so many things. Go ahead, in the back.
You mentioned that Marvel didn't want Beast on the forefront. Was there any reason behind that?
I don't know if it was. I don't know if it's just something that maybe they didn't want in the cartoon, because he was still pretty prominent in X-Men Blue in the comic. Maybe to them he wasn't fitting in with what they seen on the animated series. I mean, I didn't delve into it. A gentleman here, and we will. You know, he says there's a book coming out. I think it's You said it was X-Men TAS.com. Yeah, and you know, some of the figureheads behind the scenes might be better able to answer that, you know, the difficult they had with them, because they wanted them in there, so they kind of put them in a little safe place for them while, you know, the storylines played out until they could kind of unlock them again in I think the second season then, and so on and so forth. He was a big part of a lot of episodes as well after. So it was odd. I found that odd. That was like maybe it was just one person that didn't like him on the cartoon for some reason. Anybody else want to share any favorite moments from the series or what?
Kind of wanted to stick up for Scott a little bit.
Yeah.
Because growing up, my favorite Wolverine movie was kind of annoying too. But
yeah,
if you watch as an adult, if you worked with someone like Wolverine, you probably wouldn't like the guy. Like, he disagrees with you, he shreds something with his claws, he yells, and he goes and does whatever he wants. Usually, Cyclops had the more level-headed, probably the correct response. I mean, Wolverine was, you know, such an incredible fighter that he could go take on some enemy that he shouldn't take on and prevail. But
I think
his mentality.
I think it was more the level of Scott Summers was more on the level of a preppy boy cocky, whereas opposed to Wolverine's more roughneck cocky.
There's a lot of, I think there was some jealousy there in there. You know, he's got Jean, he's got the pretty girl, he's pretty boy, you know. It's like in there there's a lot of resentment from Wolverine to him, you know, because you know, he's got what, you know, Logan wants, but you know, it's like, and you know, and again, that's a dangerous slope to slide. You know, here's your teammate. You're supposed to be on the same page, fighting the mutant villains and stuff. And you know, meanwhile, the guy wants your girlfriend. You know, he wants her wife in the comics. You know, it's like, he wants everything he's got. And you know, how many times have we dealt with some people who are just mean spirited because they were jealous of you for some reason, or you know, or if envious, and you see, like you said, to have an aggressive character like that, we all talk. You know, a lot of times talk how cool Wolverine is. Yeah, at his core, he's got a bit of I mean, he had every reason to. He's a chip on his shoulder. He was kidnapped, brainwashed, and, you know, implanted with adamantium. I mean, pretty big reason to be angry. But, in a dichotomy with his teammate, he doesn't like him because he's probably like the, you know, what he wishes maybe he, you know, could be and live in society, you know, normally.
Oh, that's good. We touched on it in the other panel. In the animated series, it seems Cyclops was handled fairly well, but when we got to the movies, gosh, it was really poor. Like, he almost, I don't know the word for it, but he was kind of like a little girl in there, a little bit. It wasn't really an X-Men leader that we saw in the animated series or in the comics, so I don't know where that disconnect was when we got to the film, but gosh, it was a big one.
I guess it's because they wanted to make him unlikable, so they favored Logan more. I definitely think that's it, because obviously they could make more money off Wolverine because he's so iconic, as opposed to just Scott.
Yeah, that's
so
good.
like they're like, oh, let's just make him kind of like a weakling and not so much a leader. Let's just forget he's a leader entirely and just put that on Logan and Charles.
Right.
So
I thought they treated him a lot better in the last film. You know, it was nice in Apocalypse to actually see him, you know, not used in that role, like you said, as kind of like, you know, the guy, you know, rolling with Wolverine's point of view, like, hey, you don't want to like this guy, you know, because there are Cyclops has his fans, you know. Go ahead.
Especially with X-Men Apocalypse, and don't get me wrong, I love the movie. It's like to me, the best X-Men, mainly because it's like, this X-Men animated series.
Yeah.
That we all loved and probably got us into the X-Men fandom. I know it did for me, and probably 70% of the panel would definitely agree with me at the least. That was the closest translation we've ever seen on film to that version of X-Men, even though it was about 10 years before it, timeline-wise. And to me, Scott was done so much better in that movie than he ever was in the other two that he was quote unquote a main focus, because he's still not even main focus in Apocalypse. It's still Apocalypse, a little bit Magneto and Professor X, and he's just, okay, I have to pick up pieces, I have to look Mystique, and you can see that he's beginning to become a leader, but maybe it wasn't translated to, well, for everyone else, you know?
Yeah, I agree, totally.
I thought there was a hand over here.
Yeah.
I was gonna piggyback off her and say that I think the Scott Summers character on screen is hard to watch. You know, he's not very fun to watch.
Yeah.
When you're acting him out. When you're reading him, it's easier. But on screen, specifically Wolverine, to kind of make him, I don't know, I guess boring.
He switched his looks a lot over the years and stuff too, but I always loved his the Jim Lee. Jim Lee was on fire during that era, and they used all of his designs in there. I love Cyclops' look in the series. I mean, he's still, to me, that's still his iconic look, maybe even over his Uncanny days with the thing. I just, Lee had, I think, was rolling on all designs there, and I still see, hey, what do you want to see Cyclops on, or what do you want to see most predominantly these characters? It's from their designs from the series. I was reading X-Men before the series, but I mean, it helped strengthen it. But I mean, it's just, how could you not be inspired when you're watching a series?
I mean, it's a character that was just evolving. You know what I mean? It was that, X-Men Apocalypse showed good how his beginnings were. He was troubled, insecure. He couldn't open up his eyes without blasting everything in sight. And so you have a character that was having trouble fitting, and when he found that Jean Grey was taking a liking to him, she became his rock. And I think that's as soon as he started building confidence, building status within Xavier's school, that totally changed him a full 180, and he started becoming this cocky, preppy boy type. And
those interesting parts of him, it's hard to get that in a 2-hour movie.
Yeah.
You have a certain time frame.
Right, exactly.
Go ahead, Rick.
I think he makes a better leader in the cartoon because he seems older.
Yeah.
Doesn't he?
Yeah.
At least the original trilogy of movies, he seems very young.
Yeah, and even the new one, yeah.
Mid-30s or something like that.
Yeah, he seems like more of general. You might not like him, and almost like they use him in the role of, you might not like him, but he knows what he's doing. He's there. Professor X has trained him to lead this team on a mission. Yeah, he still seems very confident, almost to the point of unlikability to as they portray it. With Wolverine, I arguing with him, but he does seem very seasoned and in the series.
Yeah, because even in the movie, right? Isn't it Professor X tells Storm, right? Scott's not going to be the leader anymore. It's you. He's kind of lost his way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yellow.
I think the reason for it is when you read him in the comics, you get his internal monologue. When you see him in the movie, you're getting an actor that's trying to emote, plus their eyes are always covered.
Yeah.
So you always lose that aspect of it.
It's hard to.
So relating to it becomes that much more challenging.
That's what I mean. I know we're talking movies, but still, this is like X-Men discussion, anyways. The movie did it so well is when Jean and Dan alluded to this, like Jean is this rock. When she calmed him down in the movie and she helped him focus, I thought that was just a tremendous scene in the film, because really that did humanize Scott a lot, and you feel for him, and a lot of times you have disdain for, they set it up that way. If it's written to, they don't like him, that you really felt for him, and I felt like they did him justice there, and a lot of the critics of Apocalypse, I don't understand it. I enjoyed the film, I really did. I thought after the last one, with Days of Future Past, that they really had to kind of try to fix all this stuff. They gave you a lot of action in that film. Yeah. They gave you a ton of action and characters, and it's hard for me to hate on that, because a lot of my favorites were in the film. They did them well. Yeah, Drew.
I think a good origin story for Scott, when he goes back to his orphanage, and they're all captive, their powers are being suppressed.
Yeah.
and then they have to figure a way how to get him unsuppressed. I thought that was really good. You got to see where he came from and, you know, all that, and some spots, so it was kind of a neat little position for
There's
Scott.
still tragedy for him too, separated from his brother,
Yeah.
you know, and then to have that, you know, the problems with Havoc that they show in the series and the comics and stuff too. It takes a while for them to come back together to, you know, because that, you know, so he's not, it's all not rainbows for Scott, you know.
Yeah.
You know, it's said that if you portray the character right, there's a tragedy there. I mean, you know, you can't take off sunglasses for Pete's sake.
I feel the age difference makes a huge difference, because I mean, Wolverine's at this point like 70, 80 years old. He's been there since Civil War back, you know, in America. And he comes in, and he never knew Xavier beforehand. He was just kind of created as a feral beast.
Yeah.
And now that he's kind of calmed his mind down a little bit, and he's finally getting back used to society, he's working with the X-Men, and then kind of Charles is like, oh, we're gonna let this whiny little, you know, yeah, he's 20, 30, but I mean, he's a little kid in Wolverine's eyes.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So that's a lot of animosity there, where he's like, man, I've been in wars, and I've been doing this for over 50 years, and you're gonna put this little kid in charge. And I feel that's a lot of frustration with him, is like, I don't know what Charles sees in you, and I don't know why he's doing this.
It's what's so fun about this, because you could place yourself in, you know, in any incarnation of, whether it be here in the animated series or any the comics across the board. And you could feel, you know, some of us are going to relate to some characters better, but you could kind of feel, you know, where he's coming from, and you know, it makes sense. I mean, from that point of view, if you're looking at it from there, he is going to look at him as a child to him.
I think one of the reasons why Cyclops was the leader in the X-Men animated series, you can see it in the beginning of the second part of Night of the Sentinels, when right after Morph gets blasted and Wolverine's like, I'm gonna go after them, and full on almost berserker Wolverine rage for the animated series.
Yeah.
And then you see Cyclops tell Rogue, take care of him.
Yeah.
Takes off the glove and zaps him.
Yeah. I mean, how does that set the tone for the series going forward with the conflict with the group? I mean, that you start off like that. He is always going to not forgive him for leaving somebody behind. Yeah. In his mind, as I said, he's been through so much, you know, wars and stuff. You know, we don't leave anybody behind. And Cyclops made sure that he made the call. We need to retreat. And he didn't agree with it, and they forced him in there. That's a pretty powerful theme to start on your first episode and set the tone for the series. That this is not a team that's going to get along all the time, and you cut at each other's throats.
Kind of bringing it back to the stuff we'd like to see.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm trying to remember, I think, was it JoJo, the television guy?
Mojo, yeah.
Mojo.
Yes.
I would like to, and was it Longshot?
Yes, Longshot, yeah.
I would like to see that again. I thought that part was fun.
Yeah, it's always fun when Mojo's in there, and Murder World, and and stuff too, like everything from the alternate dimensions and stuff. Yeah, I mean, there's just they've even X-Men has even been able to expand into that with Shatterstar and all those characters from that world and make that work too. If you can go back in time with the X-Men alternate dimensions, the cool thing about the X universe is you could go so many different places and they can find a way to make it work. In the middle, go ahead.
Well, to piggyback on that, one of the things I like about the animated universe is they did create a really good world. They had some, like, they would go to Japan and deal with, like, Lady Deathstrike, or they'd go to Scotland with the Banshee episode, or then they kind of touched a bit on the Shi'ar.
Yes.
It was a really nice world that wasn't just empty outside of, like, Upper New York.
Yeah, no, and they used that. See, the cool thing is they did use, even if you found something like, why did the X-Men go in there? If they could use it, they did, and that's the cool thing is they took from the entire story, source material, and they took advantage of that to take it to places that, sometimes some of the series they would stay in a pretty much safe place, and they wouldn't go, for both probably costs too, but an animation costs. But no, they rewarded us with a lot of different storylines and worlds.
Kind of going back to the last two questions.
Yeah.
I would love to see more of the Savage Land. That was a cool arc.
Yeah.
And it's like the last guy said, it did show that there were more outside of just New York.
Yeah.
And I would like to see more of that.
This was a very well-written series. There was no question on it. They not only took the stories from the comics, they honored the story, the source material, you know,
That was
probably more
probably-
so than you've ever seen, you know.
Yeah.
That was probably the most epic one, because I mean, see, the thing is, we've been talking so much about Cyclops, but the fact is that Mr. It's revealed how much of a threat, impulse, what have you, anything that can verb, adjective, or descriptive noun that tells you, Mr. Sinister is his Lex Luthor, in a way, to Scott's, you know, superhuman ability. And you know, being a hero with the X-Men. And he's gonna take him to that limit where he's gonna say, okay, it's you and me showdown, and that's how it was at the end, and that's what I loved about how epic it made it. He was asking to be torn a new one from Scott.
Yeah.
Yes, we were talking about like least favorite heroes. My least favorite villain in the whole show is Cortex. I can't stand that guy. From bringing back from betraying Magneto and bringing back Apocalypse. I mean, what a total, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some annoying characters in there. Anybody reading the X-Men 92 comic? Yeah, yeah. What do you think of it?
I thought it was good. I mean,
True
like,
to it.
like I said, it paralleled the TV show as best they could. So I thought it was a good little, you know.
It's hard in that because, like, do they start introducing, like, or do they just stay with the cast that
Yeah, exactly.
core cast, and that's like there's only so much you could do, and
Yeah.
I mean, it ties into what we were talking about. If they made a new series with it,
Mm-hmm.
it would be easier probably to adapt because then you could have a little bit, take a little more liberties with that. But
Remind me for the writer of the 92 series, what is his name again? It's Scott something or other, I believe.
phone.
If not, well, I think,
Yeah.
I remember right, he also did these articles on Comic Alliance a few years
Yeah.
back, where he's doing like episode by episode guide of the 92 series.
Yeah.
That we're talking about, and it is hilarious.
Yeah.
That's what got him that comic series writing.
Yeah.
Because he goes back and like criticizes every single episode and all this, the sheer ridiculousness that's going on.
Yeah, yeah.
So I recommend that if you can find it.
Yeah, definitely. You know, yeah, to listen from, I was trying to think of some of the creators, some of the early series on it that are doing the research. It's there's a lot of people involved championing the series to get made to begin with, and once they did, they got the right people in place, and they did justice to X-Men. This was a series that was near and dear to all of our hearts. What we're sitting here talking about, and you know. And we were very blessed to get the series. I mean, really, I mean, if you want to introduce somebody to X-Men and in cartoon fashion and bring in there, this is no better series to bust out and show people, and it still holds up today.
Is there any talk about a new one? I mean, it's obviously still a very popular franchise, makes a lot of money in the movie.
If you can start a hashtag and bring it back, I mean, really, I mean, I think that's just that if there's noise enough to be made, you know, if you get into panels with, you know, Marvel, you know, power brokers and stuff, and people from some place that could be aired like a Netflix or something, I don't see why not. I mean, you may have to get some new people involved because, you know, we're talking 25 years ago, but yeah, if you can even bring anybody back from the original series, or just get somebody who respects it enough to do something similar. If enough people's voices are heard. I mean, the thing I think with Young Justice is we weren't too far removed from the series where a lot of people spread out to other projects. We're here. I don't know. I don't even know if some of the people working on it are still working in the industry, but they could bring a form of it. I mean, I don't see why not. I mean, if you made enough noise, let people know.
I think it's currently on Hulu too.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. So
people are watching it.
Just recently came out on DVD, didn't it?
No, it's been out for a while. It's out for a while, yeah. Maybe the Blu-ray. It's been out for a while. I think the amount of hits, streams, the download. I mean, the comic. I think they were testing the interest for the comics. I mean, if you're not really supporting that property there, it makes it tougher for them to justify. Like, hey, maybe there is, you know, because they don't know. They don't know unless we tell them. If you don't tell them that, hey, I want to see this, I want to see more of it, they're not going to know that there's a market for it, and they'll just go on and do something else. But if enough voices are heard, they'll listen, or you know, enough voices make themselves heard.
There was talk of a video game spin-off. I don't know where that's at currently, though.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
That's
I was going to say they're going to have two shows on television related to the X-Men universe. Perhaps if those do really well, like Legion was on it,
Yes.
and Gifted is coming this fall. Maybe if those do really well, they'll think about bringing something animated.
Yeah, you never know. Yeah, Legion, I've heard good things about it. I've not been able to see it yet, but a lot of people raved about it. Yeah.
I mean, I really want to see another X-Men animated series, but I'm worried a bit because the last Marvel animated series, I think, was Superhero Squad.
Yeah.
And I really don't want them to go that way.
That was Disney fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have to keep in mind,
We'll do that one thing, so I can still keep the fan for him. That's just one thing. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead, I'm back.
You know, one thing I love, X-Men was so powerful back in that day that like they did so much with it outside the series, like when they crossed over into an episode of Spider-Man and like Spider-Man and their helmets and everything. So that's what I like about it.
Well, I love that too. Yeah, I mean, for the Amazing Friends and stuff too, when they would appear and stuff too, and that.
The 94 series was really good. And it really brought out the Spider-Man, their actual lore in Spider-Man.
Go ahead.
Well, one of the things just about the show itself was just the struggle to even to get it on the air. They completely killed the original X-Men cartoon idea, the Pride of the X-Men.
Yeah.
And
it's almost killed them.
In season 5, they were cutting corners.
Yeah.
It was just completely evident in the production of the show.
Yeah.
So just the fact that he was on the air is kind of impressive.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, from the start, this was like a huge obstacle to overcome for this to even get on, because as it started the panel off with Margaret Loesch, if she wasn't championing this wasn't, we wouldn't even be sitting here talking about it, because the executives wanted nothing to do with it. They were like, why do you keep pushing this they insulted the comic community. Like, why are you pushing this thing read by, comics read by 18-year-old kids with social problems, and they didn't want anything to do with it. They were like, it's comic books, we don't have any comic book property. She pushed hard for this. Stan Lee was working early on and with the series, and then once they learned, hey, these writers get it. They get this, the X-Men, they get what we're trying to tell here. Once they realized that, a lot of times they left them alone. I mean, Marvel did a lot of, like hounding over them, but once they seen what was going on, hey, these guys are doing this right. They kind of left them alone. But the series was a struggle, I think, from start to finish, with a lot of opposition. So that's why I think it's so we're so lucky to have this series to go back and rewatch. And back.
Yes, after I thought it was funny, the original airing after Jean Grey was following tonight. The episode afterwards, she won. They didn't show that until years later and out of order. So I remember seeing what happened. Well, she's not dead.
Yeah, a lot of them that was one of the knocks on the thing too, and that doesn't help at all. When you're watching a series and it's like, what the hell, you want to have it being aired in chronological order, and that was a problem with the original air dates, unfortunately. And the good thing is we could just either on Hulu or if you had the DVD, just pop it in now and just watch it the way it should be. But yeah, back then it's a little confusing. Go ahead.
Speaking about it being difficult to get on in a panel with Eric and Julia, who they were talking about, they did the first season and then they started sending out their resumes for everything else because they didn't think it was going to be the second season.
Yeah.
So the voiceover cliffhanger on the last episode of season 1, that was added on after
later,
because they didn't think it was going to happen.
A lot of that is if you look at the episodes and storylines there in the overall arc, it wraps up nicely, and that's what they said. They knew because they didn't know they were going to be back, and that's the thing, So we're going to wrap it up. We're going to do the trivia there. Here for the shirt, we're going to thank A Different Cloth, cut from a different cloth on Instagram for donating it to. So Colt, you got one for us, and we're going to read a little bit of X-Men animated trivia, and you can win a shirt.
All right, you guys want to keep an eye, see who raises their hand first?
Yeah.
All right, in the Savage Land, all of the X-Men lost their powers except for who?
I'd say Wolverine, but I'm probably wrong.
You're probably right.
Oh, nice job. Good job. All right. I want to thank you all again. Comicasters on all social media. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook.com/Comicasters. Hopefully the show, if it uploads okay, you could always listen to this again on YouTube. Thank you. What size?
Thank you.
What size does that say? Is it larger? No, let me see. I have one more.
Oh, cool.
Is it XL or L? I have XL. You want
All right,
it?
cool. I'll take it.
Yeah. Good job. I didn't know which one.
He saw it in his closet. I remember that, but I don't know if that counted
He
or
even
not.
specifically says, I wish I had some mutant healing power right now.
Yeah.
mind just-
Savage Land.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, his claw still. That's all.
Do you mind? Hey. You mind just holding it up? I'm gonna send it to him. Yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate it. Thank you.
I was tempted to call you Striker.
Yeah.
With your
Friends of humanity, man.
All I could see was up here. I was like, oh.